All right, let's talk about Bo Nix, who I think is kind of a really interesting prospect. There's a lot of things to like about his game, a lot of question marks in his game. He is one of those guys who kind of, I don't want to say fully came out of nowhere, but is someone who is kind of a bit of a surprise as to, how well he played last year. Certainly, his best year in college was his most recent year, which is in some ways a good thing, in some ways not a good thing, but we'll get into all of it. Let's just talk about the film first of all, and I want to start off with some positives. What is there to like about Bo Nix? Well, I think, kind of the two biggest things I'm going to show off on these first two plays. First, this one is zone coverage that he's going up against USC, and you see the concept towards his left. This is a, concept that can certainly work here against this type of coverage. However, when Nix takes the snap, he looks towards his left, and right here, it doesn't appear to be open. USC has this covered up pretty well, so for Nix, who is kind of in a throwing motion, he's going to quickly realize, you know what, this is not a throw I want to make. And here's where the, I think, biggest asset and probably the best part of Nix's game is going to come through. Watch him kind of twirl around, gets outside the pocket, and is now going to make a throw off balance. So again, making a throw off balance, not easy. You don't know how accurate these balls are going to come out when it's a, young quarterback. But watch how Nix is going to be able to make this throw. He does make a very accurate throw to an admittedly wide open wide receiver, is able to get the touchdown on that play. These are the kind of things Nix is really good at. When plays break down, does a very good job at not just rushing, but being able to find ways to find other guys who are open, getting through and knowing which throws not to make. All this stuff, very good. Again, he's a 24-year-old prospect, so if he wasn't a smart player, it almost make him like undraftable, right? But the fact that he is a smart player is, a necessity, but also a very positive trait that he possesses. Like a play like this is probably my biggest thing I like about Nix as a player. So it's going to be man coverage. You have a one-on-one matchup down the field. This read is a pretty simple one, right? Throw the ball deep down the field in a one-on-one matchup. Sure, if there's only a safety deep and you have a deep ball down the field, pretty simple. You might be sitting here wondering, Jackson, how can you even bring this up as a smart play? This is obvious. Well, watch what happens. So when this play begins, you see Nix looks down the field, and sometimes it's not about which throw you make, but, how do you throw it, right? It's not like Madden where you just hit the button. It's, there's several ways you can make a throw and several areas you can put the ball in, right? Right here, what do you do in this situation? Well, you could just bomb it down the field. The issue is the safety who is down the field is already getting over. He sees this and he's getting in that direction, but that's the matchup Nix likes. That's where Nix wants to go with the football. But look at the defensive player who is covering the receiver Nix wants to throw to. And look at how his back is turned towards Nix, but he's fully running deep down the field, despite the fact that he has a step on the receiver who he's going up against. So watch how Nix is going to kind of take advantage of that. Watch him throw it behind and a bit towards the outside, which allows the receiver to make a grab and even makes a couple moves and gets around the players who he's trying to cover, which, okay, listen, that part isn't all Bo Nix, right? There is always going to be some luck in how good some of these results are. Football's a team sport. I know, crazy, but it's true. However, I think this stuff is really good from a quarterback. I think being able to have a good understanding and a good feel of the game is really important, and that is exactly what he is able to do to a T, is he just has a really good understanding of the game. But now let's go over here. So I want to talk about some negatives, because there are some negatives in his game. He's not a perfect prospect, and to be honest, I actually don't think that a lot of his negatives are like things he's actively bad at, but just stuff that maybe he could be better at kind of thing, right? Like sometimes you see a prospect and you're like, okay, he does this really good, this really bad. That's not really the case with Nix. In a lot of ways, Nix is almost like, okay, he does this good, but not elite, and then he does this not great, but not terrible either. It's kind of sometimes where he's at, other than a couple of good things that, things that are really good that I already mentioned. Something like this I would say, though, is maybe his, the thing that I noticed the most that I don't really hear a lot of other people talking about. But watch when this play begins, watch how Nix is going to really just miss this throw. He throws it too high. And this one's another one where he's going to, have a receiver. And I don't know, maybe there was miscommunications. There always is that potential. But to me, again, I'm going to show this one a couple times. If you look at his footwork, he really is not getting his feet planted the way you would like to right there. I think that I'm not necessarily an expert in this kind of stuff. There's, quarterback gurus that could really get into the weeds of some of this stuff. But I've always kind of said, when it comes to throwing motion, not an expert, but I can see good throwing motion when I can see it, and I can see bad throwing motion when I see it. For Nix here, it's not really throwing motion, but I feel like his footwork, he often could get these things a little bit more under control and doesn't. And I think that leads to some missed throws, which is something that I do notice and is a fixable problem. But like I said, kind of an older prospect. How much do you expect him to fix that? I just don't know. But okay, let's go over to something that I like again. This is something I don't like. I love. This is his other best asset that he has, which is, again, it goes in that kind of same thing I was talking about earlier of understanding how to play the game. Of you have a receiver who's going to run a route that's going to get into a gap in coverage right here. So, okay, that's the way this works. Nix is going to take the snap, read the play, and first off, watch the zip he puts on that ball, right? There's been some criticisms of arm strength criticisms I've heard with Nix. I don't really see that. I think his arm is fine. I think that it's more of a footwork thing. I think sometimes he doesn't get his footwork under control, which leads to maybe the ball not coming out the way you would otherwise like to see it. But there's a difference between arm strength and mechanical issues, right? That's just how I view it at the very least. But right here, you see he put a lot of zip on it. There's still not a ton of a window to make this throw. So I like that he put zip on it because that's the correct thing to do on this play. Sometimes you got to put a little bit more air under it. Sometimes you got to throw more of a line drive. He knows exactly when you should do that. Again, it's kind of mastered the Oregon offense at this point. It's also a really accurate throw, and they're able to get a touchdown on that play. I mean, you look at plays like that, and you're like, man, why isn't this guy getting talked about as a top-of-the-line prospect? And that's not all he can do. Something like this is a great play where it's 4th down and 7. They're going for it, even though they're up 9 points. I guess it's kind of more of the logic of let's just try and end it right here. Hey, it's the kind of situation where you're number 6 seed at this point, trying to make the playoffs, winning, getting more points might be a good thing. So not letting USC get a drive and make it a 1-score game could help because college football is weird. Anyway, what you see the concept on your screen. You have more of a kind of over the middle route. The one receiver on the top of the screen could get open. That's kind of Nix's first read here. When Nix takes the snap, though, he looks up and, again, could you maybe make a throw there on 4th down? You could. However, the halfback is wide open. The USC player who's supposed to cover him is not really doing a good job of covering him whatsoever. But it's 4th down and 7. Are you really going to take a check down on 4th and 7? Well, if it's the correct read, then yes. As you see, that's exactly what Nix does. Again, has a really good understanding of the way that this offense works. It was a weird offense. So many screen passes were thrown that, it's definitely, unique. I think that's going to lead to some weird box score stats because of just how the offense works. But, if you know me, I don't care about box score stats hardly at all. I care about how well do you actually play, and his play is very good. I think Bo Nix is a very good player, and I do think that he is, I don't think he's a player who can't become a bust, right? And I think some people question, why do I harp on age so much? A big reason why I pay attention to it is because a lot of times guys who, have their first, NFL great season at the age of 24 don't always end up being great play. Look at Kenny Pickett, for example. Kind of had his first great season when he was 24, and a large part of it is because when you're a 24-year-old going up against 19-year-olds, it's a lot easier than when you're a 21-year-old going up against 19-year-olds. It's just a fact that guys who are younger tend to have higher hit rates at the end, going into the NFL than guys who are older. It just is, and there's reasons for it. That being said, I still think it's totally worth drafting Nix. I think he's a good prospect. I think there's a lot to like about him. That's kind of my full thoughts on him. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on Bo Nix? Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.